Welcome to the Essence of Bhagavad Gita series of classes for the next 4 days. Beginning today, we are going to go into the understanding of what is the essence of Bhagavad Gita. So when we say Bhagavad Gita, it implies that the Gita spoken by none other than the Supreme Lord Bhagavan. So that is the first understanding we should get. So for the next 4 days, we will dwell into the specific essence, understanding of what is Bhagavad Gita. Our Itihasas, Puranas, Dharma Shastram, Upanishads, Vedas, all our Hindu scripture have a wide variety of knowledge, a wide gamut of understanding, and also giving out what is required for the humankind. Being so vast knowledge, what we understand is the summary, the essence of all this so huge, vast Vedic literature is summarized in Srimad Bhagavad Gita. So that is our first understanding should be. So the essence of all the Vedic scriptures have been embedded in Bhagavad Gita. So if you want to know about what is mentioned in Rig Veda, if you want to know mentioned what is the sum and essence of what is mentioned in Yajur Veda, so instead of going into all the Vedic literatures, if one can understand, if one can able to assimilate, if one is able to relish and realize Bhagavad Gita, then the sum and bonum or the entire thing is made available in Bhagavad Gita. So Bhagavad Gita, we all know, has been there for many years and millions of years. So what is that Bhagavad Gita unfolds? Bhagavad Gita unfolds the most important mysteries of our life. Specifically, when you say our life, it is more in terms of how do we understand this human form of life. When you say human form of life, how do you differentiate yourself between an animal, between a human being? So that is the first understanding that you should get. And Bhagavad Gita has been there for years for us to give us the knowledge, the understanding by which we are able to lead our life as we are supposed to be. So that is the first understanding we should get. So when he says supposed to be, then we should know who we are and why are we here and what is that we are supposed to do. So that's the next understanding that we should get. So what is some of life that Bhagavad Gita unfolds? First and foremost is, who am I? Like somebody will say, oh, I am just a living being. And as per our Shastras, it is more of something called as Atma or a Jivatma, or from an English literature perspective, it is called as soul. Okay, so you need to identify, you need to understand who you are really. Like, why are you here? What is that you are doing? So without that particular knowledge, that particular understanding, then it is very difficult, or it is going to be a little more tough in terms of understanding your goal of life. So first you have to understand who you are. And the next important point is, who is the Supreme Lord or who is God, which is also very important. Because, for example, when you want to assimilate knowledge, you should know what is your level, what is your qualification, and who is giving you that knowledge. That is also very important. So one is, who am I? Number two is, who is the Supreme Lord? So when you know these two, Bhagavad Gita in various chapters goes in detail about mentioning about who am I. For example, in the second chapter Bhagavad Gita, a detailed understanding of the Atma, a detailed understanding what happens for an Atma when it leaves from one body to another. We call it as birth, or the other way it can be mentioned as death. Like, when a death happens, a Jivatma moves from one body to another body and takes up it as a birth. So how does it happen? What is the background? So those kinds of mysteries are unfolded in Bhagavad Gita. Similarly, about who is the Paramapurusha Bhagavan. Who is that? When we say Bhagavan, when we say Paramatma, when we say Parabrahmam, when we say Bhagavan, how do I understand? How do we assimilate that? So that is also very briefly in specific chapters and in detail. Some of the specific chapters deal with this particular understanding. And third one is, what is this connectivity? Being in this particular material world, we call it as Prakriti or this earth. So we are here. What are we supposed to do? Why are we here? What are all the things that we are supposed to do? How do we understand between us and the Lord? How do we connect? What kind of reciprocation we are doing? So all those specific mysteries are being resolved through Bhagavad Gita. So Bhagavad Gita, as we mentioned, has been there for many years. So still consider some of the big paradox, some of the modern time paradoxes. Like now in the current society, if you see, there are so much of highly qualified people, more knowledgeable. But what is that they are able to contribute? What is that they are able to bring out to society? If you see, it is kind of little or to far less little. That's what we would say. There are so many huge technical advancements, tall buildings. But if you see the mindset or the behavior or the characteristics of people are slowly turning into shorter ways. We have a lot of experts, but solutions are very less. For example, now we are in this pandemic situation. Now Corona has been there for the past 6 to 8 months. We have so many experts, so many intelligent people, but where is the solution? Still, we are trying to figure out the solution. We might be adding life to our years, trying to live for more years, trying to do all kind of artificial way of living. But then you cannot add life to your years. What is meant by life? The way you are supposed to live, the way you are supposed to understand, the way you differentiate, the way you are being happy, the way you are being able to assimilate sadness. We might say we have a lot of big houses, but almost everybody will appreciate or understand that even though houses are big, the families are small. Similarly, we have a lot of leisure time now, but where is the fun? We have varieties of food, but where is the nutrition? In most of the families, we have the way called as double income. So what is it that with double income they're able to do? Just enjoy and after that suffer? We have a lot of fancier homes, fancier types of building structures being built. But are they really homes? When I say home, the home is where you live. It is not that where you stay. So we need to understand what is that Bhagavad Gita offers to us. So essence of Bhagavad Gita, we should understand it's a time-proven manual. It's not that it is there for some years and for somebody to read and then understand, assimilate some slokas and mug it up. And no, it has been there for time memorial. And essence is where you need to understand it as a manual for life. For example, a manual is what? Manual is something for particular operations. Like you want to do how to do it, what to do it, when to do it. All those things are mentioned. So for a human being to live, Bhagavad Gita has been there. It will be there as a manual. We might say, Bhagavad Gita maybe would have been spoken some 5,000 years ago, 500 years ago, till it was like, okay, but now current situation, current this yuga and the modern times, Bhagavad Gita does not apply. No, it's no more valid. No, it is not there. It has been there for years and it will still continue. Why? Bhagavad Gita is not an ordinary book. We need to understand it is spoken by the Supreme Lord, none other than the Supreme Lord himself. Okay, so that we have to understand. And most importantly, some of the mysteries, like Bhagavad Gita may be only for old people, and it is not required for younger generation. It will take some time. The children can just mug up the Bhagavad Gita, and after old age, after retirement, after 40-50 years, somebody gifting a Bhagavad Gita, understanding, he's going to retire, okay, let's give him a Bhagavad Gita. No. Bhagavad Gita has to be applied at every level, every stage, every position, and different ages also. So what does it offer to you? People will say, oh, I want to have a balanced life. I have a very stressful life. My office, my professional life and personal life, I'm not able to balance. How do I do it? Yes, somebody will come and seek for that. Yes, Bhagavad Gita gives you the wonderful answer. And somebody will say, oh, I have a lot of problems. How do I manage the problems? How do I come out of my problems? I have so much of difficulty. What do I do? Yes, Bhagavad Gita gives you some solution. And somebody will say, I want to understand about the behaviors. I want to understand why people are doing it to me. Why problems alone come to me, and when everybody else are good, I am getting bad things. Why should always bad things happen to me? So these kinds of specific understanding questions are there across the society, and Bhagavad Gita provides you the solution. So we need to understand the essence of Bhagavad Gita before we delve into the deeper aspects of the knowledge. Now, how do we build relationships? In the current society, people also building relationships is the biggest challenge in our life. A relationship between a man and a woman, or a teacher and a student, or a boss and a subordinate, a supervisor and a subordinate, between father and son, between mother and daughter, between father-in-law and son-in-law, between mother-in-law and daughter-in-law. There are so many things that needs to be understood when it comes into a relationship. So what does Bhagavad Gita give you an answer? Yes, Bhagavad Gita gives you wonderful examples, wonderful way of how do you maintain, build and relish those relationships. Most of all, people will ask, oh, I know Bhagavad Gita. It just simply says, oh yes, we know, we have heard something called as Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga. So Krishna is talking about karma, performing duty, and without expecting results. Yes, that is one part of Bhagavad Gita. So we will just understand this Bhagavad Gita when it is spoken in the battlefield, where Arjuna wants to see who's there lined up in the battlefield. So we all know, Krishna acts as the charioteer or the driver of his chariot, Arjuna, and he comes there and stands. And then just before the war, Arjuna just asks, I just want to see who's there lined up, because he's a Kshatriya, he's a fierce warrior, and he wants to just understand. Oh, I want to see who's fight. I'm really fired up. I want to really fight. Let me see who has come there. So Krishna understands, Krishna knows the background, the mind of Arjuna. So what does he do? Very beautifully, he just takes the chariot in front of none other than his own great-grandfather, Bhishma. So Bhishma is standing there. Next to Bhishma is Dronacharya, his guru, his acharya, and then his kula guru, his family guru, Kripacharya, and also his very close relatives. Two of them lying there to fight against his own self. And he just sees them and he just, wow, what is this? My own great-grandfather is there. My guru, my acharya is there to fight. Oh, I have to fight against them? Oh, what is this, Krishna? So slowly he starts melting down. He starts trembling down. Should I really fight with them? What is the use of fighting with my own grandfather? What is the use of fighting with my own guru? Am I not supposed to not fight with them? Should I really fight with them? So slowly Arjuna's nature, Arjuna's characteristics, Arjuna's heart starts melting down, and he says, no, I will not fight. So in that context, we should understand why Bhagavad Gita was spoken to Arjuna. That is also very important. The one small story that we all know in Bhagavad Gita is where when the war is completely declared and then the war is going to start happening, and Shakuni, Duryodhana's uncle advises him to go and meet Krishna to seek his help. So at that point of time, both Duryodhana and Arjuna also comes to meet Krishna. And Krishna is in his bed sleeping. And what does he do? Arjuna just keeps waiting at the head portion of Krishna, and Duryodhana is waiting at the head portion, and at the foot side of Krishna is Arjuna waiting. So when Krishna wakes up, immediately first he sees Arjuna, but then Duryodhana says, no, I have come first, so I need your help. But Krishna says, it's okay, you have come first, but I am able to see Arjuna as first. So let him ask. So what does Arjuna ask? Very, very intelligently. So what is it you want? So Arjuna simply asks, in the war, we need your support. What is meant by your support? He asks. Krishna asks. Your support means we need you to be there. That's all. Oh, then Krishna says, fine. Tatastu, yes. And then Duryodhana becomes happy. Oh, good, thank you. Then Krishna asks Duryodhana, what is it you want? Oh, I want your entire army, your Narayana Sena, which means the entire Yadu dynasty, which is a very, very big Akshogini, big army. So when we see in the Kurukshetra war, it is a war between 1 million to 5 million or 10 million. 1:5 or 1:10. Very huge army on the Kauravas side compared to the Pandavas side. But even then, Krishna was on the other side with Pandavas, and we all know what happened. Wherever there is Krishna, we all have to understand it is only victory and nothing else. So that is the way we have to understand. So when we say Krishna was there as a charioteer or as a driver person in the Mahabharata war, what is that Arjuna did? What is that Arjuna was so qualified that he became, for him, Krishna became a charioteer. That is also very important. And why? And most importantly, why Bhagavad Gita was spoken to Arjuna? First and foremost thing we have to understand, so what is the qualification? What is the qualification that Arjuna has got? When we say qualification, it is very important that we should understand. Like for you to, if you are in a school, for example, I'm just saying you are in your 10th standard and you are supposed to get your board exam result, and you are passing and you are moving to 11th standard. What is it you have qualified that made you to go to 11th standard? Is because you have passed out of 10th standard. For example, in a simple understanding, you are in your 5th standard, and when you want to go to 6th standard, what is that you are qualified? You are qualified to out of 5th standard, right? So that kind of a basic qualification we see in our normal material life, normal study. Same way in our spiritual life, in our way where we want to develop our bhakti, in our way where we want to understand the jnana, understand the knowledge, then we should have some preliminary understanding, preliminary qualification. What is that qualification? It is not about studying the entire scriptures. Oh, I know the entire Vedanta, I know everything. No. Krishna talks very brilliantly. Qualification is more in terms of how you behave, how do you understand, how are you submissive, what kind of characteristics that you are imbibing, what kind of characteristics you are building will determine how you will understand Bhagavad Gita. People will say, oh, Bhagavad Gita is very tough. Yes, it is tough in terms when you start applying through your qualification in terms of being very compassionate, being kind-hearted. You have to be in the mood of eagerness to learn, and also very, very importantly, being very, very submissive. So Arjuna demonstrated all these brilliant qualities of being compassionate, kind-hearted, the mood to understand, to say surrender, eager to learn, asking very intelligent questions, and being very submissive. Then you can understand Bhagavad Gita. A very typical example that I will say, in a school, in a class, if your teacher is asking you to put some mathematical calculations, and when the teacher says 2 plus 2 is equal to 4, then if you start questioning the teacher, no, teacher, 2 plus 2 is not 4, it is 6. The teacher will say, how do you know? No, it is my understanding, it is my own way, it is my way and my perspective. Which means what? You're completely wrong. You're completely getting misdirected. But when the teacher says 2 plus 2 is 4, then you accept it, then you get knowledge. Then the next level you keep going, by which what? You have started believing the teacher because the teacher is a qualified person. The teacher gets that qualification, starts imparting the knowledge, and you also start learning the knowledge very submissively, being in the mood of surrender. When I say mood of surrender, accepting as it is what the teacher says. So Bhagavad Gita, you have to understand that you have to accept whatever the Lord says, the speaker. He is none other than the Supreme Lord, Bhagavan, he is saying. So when he says, do this, don't do that, you don't have to question him. Just do it as it is, that's all. In your school, if you start questioning, you know what will happen. Unnecessary. But if you start questioning very intelligently to understand or to assimilate knowledge, the teacher also is becoming very happy, and he or she will give more knowledge, more information, and you start assimilating it. But if you start questioning the authority, then you will never be able to proceed further, right? So the essence of Bhagavad Gita is very important for you to be very submissive, at the same time more eager to learn. Somebody who is very eager, then they'll be able to understand and learn very quickly. So these are some of the wonderful qualities demonstrated by none other than Arjuna. Yeah, in one sense we'll say, oh, he is a good friend of Krishna. Yes, he is a good friend of Krishna. But at the battlefield, though Krishna acts as a charioteer, at some point of time Krishna says, I am just surrendering unto you. I'm just completely perplexed. I don't know what I'm doing to you. Please guide me. Then Krishna starts talking. Krishna starts giving Bhagavad Gita. Only at that point, you will be able to start assimilating knowledge. So for you to understand, for us to understand knowledge, we have to be very, very submissive to the Lord. So when you start, have that submissive nature. When it says submissive, it means faith. It means being humble. If you don't have faith on the teacher, then whatever the teacher says, you will never be able to believe, understand, accept. But once you start accepting what the teacher says, then you are getting the real knowledge. So the essence of Bhagavad Gita is all about how do you understand, how do you relish Bhagavad Gita in a particular state. Yes, initially it will be tough. It's a kind of a bitter medicine. It will not be able to understand. Yes, but for you to get the remedy, when the doctor says, oh, it is kind of little bitter medicine, but you should take it, there's no other choice. What do you say? Yes, you accept it because you know that you have to be relieved of the physical problem. Similarly, Bhagavad Gita offers that kind of a problem. But once you start understanding and assimilating and accepting it, you will start really feel the happiness, really start relishing it, which is very, very beautiful. And that is why Bhagavad Gita has been there for many, many years and many, many years to go also. Next most important thing, that essence of Bhagavad Gita we have to understand is something called as, from a knowledge perspective, is called as 5 principal elements of Bhagavad Gita, which is very, very essential when you understand Bhagavad Gita at a higher level. Yeah, Bhagavad Gita has got around 700 slokas, specifically more something called as Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, and Dhyana Yoga. These are varieties. But the principal elements that revolve around Bhagavad Gita is also very, very important for us to understand. So what are the 5 elements? These are the 5 elements. First one is called as Ishvara. Second one is called Jiva or Jivatma or Atma or soul. Third one is called as Prakriti, or this material manifestation, material creation, or the earth or the universes, in whatever way we want to understand. And fourth is, very interestingly, people will say, oh, karma, because mostly people will try to relate, oh, Bhagavad Gita means karma, performing your actions. It can be either good or bad or whatever be it. Yes, karma is also important, but from a definition perspective, karma is nothing but actions. Whatever an action a Jivatma performs is a karma. And most importantly, Kala. Kala means Kalam or Kal, in Sanskrit is Kal or time, the time factor, which is important because this Jiva present in this particular Prakriti, in this material world, born in this material world, performs some specific actions within a stipulated time. That's the understanding. So who is Ishvara? Ishvara, people will say, oh, Maheshwara, Parameshwara, Jagadishwara. Bhagavad Gita brings out a fantastic definition called as supreme controller. We'll say creation, maintenance, destruction, but the word controller is also very important. I gave you an example of driving a car or riding a bicycle is controlled by what? Is controlled by your brake system, which is internally present. You may not know about it, but you enjoy that particular ride, enjoy that life, just because there is a controller, just because there is a belief that controls. So you need to realize about the Supreme Lord, about the Supreme Person, the Bhagavan. So throughout Bhagavad Gita, it is not mentioned as Krishna Uvacha, Arjuna Uvacha means speaking or talking. It is mentioned as Bhagavan Uvacha. The word Bhagavan is also very, very significant and important for us to understand. And there is something called as Paramatma or Paramatma realization, and then another one is called as Brahman, the all-pervading. Everywhere you say, no, the Lord is present everywhere in His material world. Yes, He is present everywhere. So we need to understand the three levels: the Supreme Bhagavan, the person who is sitting inside the body, along with the Jivatma is Paramatma, and the Brahman, or the person who is all-pervading effervescence. So this is more about science. So Krishna, in detail, gives in specific chapters. For example, when we talk about 11th chapter, when you talk about 8th, when you talk about 7th chapter, Krishna is bringing out who is He, what does He do, why does He descend, what is it that He is doing, what are His actions does, and how do we understand them. So these things are all very beautifully brought out in Bhagavad Gita. So we need to understand who is Ishvara, the Supreme Lord, first point. Then second important point is Atma or Jivatma or the soul. So this also is elaborately dealt in second chapter, and what is this particular Jivatma has to perform, has to do, what is the goal, what are the characteristics of a Jivatma, what are the properties of a Jivatma, why it is happening. They call it as Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadi. We call it as a cycle of birth, death, disease and old age, for which every human being or every Jivatma, I will say, any Jivatma will undergo this cycle of process. Birth, then grow, then undergo various old diseases, then finally get into an old age and then death. So this kind of a cycle has been going on for many millions and millions of years. So the Jivatma has been performing a lot of karma, a lot of actions continuously, and then keeping on revolving in this particular trip. The science of soul. We spoke about science of God, science of Lord. Now, most importantly, science of Atma, science of soul. Who am I? Is also very important. People will say, oh, it is just temporary, we'll just go. No, your Atma is always permanent, always knowledge, always blissful. So these are all specific understanding. That is also we will go in Bhagavad Gita. The third is, as I mentioned, the Prakriti, the creation by the Lord. What is that? What is that? How it is manifested? What are all the properties? What are all the characteristics? And why it is being created? That is also very important. People will say Pancha Bhutas, 5 gross elements, and 3 gunas, like that they will say. So all those things are all specifically mentioned, understanding in terms of the Prakriti. The fourth important point is karma. Very elaborately mentioned in the specific chapters, like 4th chapter, 5th chapter and all, which is what is making us drive crazy, which is what is making us mad, which is what making us happy, which is what is making us suffer, whatever it be. Yes, absolutely right. Karma plays a very important role. Karma means, in a simple understanding, it is action. In a very direct relationship between karma, knowledge is very important. Can I escape out of action? No. Why should I work? What should I do? How to do? What are all the results? Why am I alone suffering? How do I enjoy? How do I enjoy alone? So these are a lot of questions that keep asking us, and science of action, the laws of karma, is very tough also, but very brilliantly put out in the Bhagavad Gita. So you should understand action is directly proportionate to the knowledge, which means what? Your actions are based on your knowledge. So depending upon the knowledge or the knowledge level, your actions are happening. Okay, so that is the direct understanding. So though people will say, oh, knowledge is powerful, it is no empowering, it is got so much expertise, it is the know-how, yes, it is the education, yes, it is all there, but what culminates out of this knowledge is what your actions are. The last most important point is kalam or time. This Jivatma in this Prakriti, living in this material world for a particular period. It can be 1 year, 2 years, 20 years, 40 years, 80 years, whatever period, depending upon your time, performing actions. It continuously, a Jivatma cannot be idle. A Jivatma cannot be simply sitting and say, no, I will not do this. No. A Jivatma in this material world has to perform a karma, has to do an action. But what is the most important thing in our goal, our goal of life? As a Jivatma in this Prakriti for a particular period, for a particular kalam, performing action to reach the Ishvara, to understand the Lord, to reciprocate with the Lord, to start realizing the position of the Lord, to worship the Lord, to surrender to the Lord. So whatever parameters, whatever characteristics we want to add, we can add. But our goal of life as a Jivatma in this Prakriti for a particular period, perform an action. That action has to have some kind of a relationship, some kind of a dependency, some kind of a motive, some kind of a goal towards the Ishvara. Then your life is fulfilled. Then your life becomes sublime. Then your life is really valuable. Otherwise, what is the implied understanding? You will keep on coming and going based on your continuous action. And the next important essence of Bhagavad Gita is about these 4 major paths. Krishna gives different kinds of paths according to the need, according to the mood, according to the knowledge, according to the understanding. Path of action, simply by performing karma, simply by performing an action, yes, you will be able to realize, you will be able to get the particular goal of life. Next one is path of knowledge, which is nothing but Jnana Yoga. Just by reading, just by understanding the supremacy. And knowledge is not again about mugging up the Vedanta, mugging about the Rig Veda, just reciting 100 slokas. No. Knowledge is about more of realization that is brought out of the knowledge. Realization of who is the Supreme Lord, what is that we are going to do. And the next one is path of discipline, or we call it as path of self-control, which is path of Dhyana Yoga or Ashtanga Yoga. No, I'll try to control myself. I'll do a lot of meditation, like all the yogis who perform various kind of austerities, tapasya, Ashtanga Yoga, doing this pranayama, doing this breathing exercise. So all those things will fall under the fall of discipline. Yes, by performing all those severe austerities, yes, you will be able to understand the Lord. And most important, the last is called a path of, as I mentioned, the path of simply surrendering, simply realizing the Lord and then start worshipping the Lord. That's called the Bhakti Yoga. So these are the 4 major ones that are covered in Bhagavad Gita from an essence perspective. So the next 4 days, we have just spoken about the background, what is the need of Bhagavad Gita as a manual, as a essential guide for all the human mankind, and why are we reading it, what is the qualification that is required for us, how are we doing it, what is the background in terms of the war, where it happened, and to whom it was given. To whom it was given means, when we say Krishna given to Arjuna, means Krishna giving it to us through Arjuna. That's the typical understanding we should get. So when he gets that, then we should know about the 5 principal elements of Bhagavad Gita, namely the Ishvara, Jivatma, Prakriti, Kala and Karma. And lastly, we also dwelt a little about what is meant by, in terms of the Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, and to some extent about Dhyana Yoga. So stay tuned for another 3 more days where you will be able to go a little detailed in terms of the understanding the essence of Bhagavad Gita. So further details you can just contact me as mentioned in the particular details as shown in the screen, and join for the other classes also for you to get the further understanding. Thank you. Hare Krishna.